Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm on the road. I'm at Salt Lake City Comic-Con this weekend. It starts today, Thursday, and I'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I wish I had my table number to give you. I don't, so check me out on social media at John Word Balloon and at Facebook under my name, John Suntress and the Word Balloon Network, and I will post my table. If you're heading to the con, I have copies of No Plan B, The Art of Michael Avon Oming, a book that I co-wrote with Mike, and it's a beautiful showcase of Mike's wonderful work, great sketches, great layouts and covers and interiors, just a wonderful celebration of the beautiful art of Mike Oming. And it's out from Dark Horse, and I'm very proud to have been part of that project, and I will be signing a limited amount of copies that I've brought to Salt Lake City. They're heavy. They're big books, but I'm glad to have them. Today, I'm really excited about both of my guests. They're two separate podcasts. You're listening to Greg Pak, of course, because you downloaded it. I love the people that are new to podcasting that come from radio and reflexively, after talking to somebody for 5 or 10 minutes, we're talking to Greg Pak. Yeah, we know. I downloaded the conversation. Thank you. But this is a great opportunity to talk to Greg. Planet Hulk, it's back in print. There's a great omnibus that's available from Marvel. In addition to that, a prose version of Planet Hulk coming out that Greg has written that has great art from the original series, but it's a novel. I wouldn't call it a novelization because Greg expands the story in great ways. We get different points of view of the event from the various characters at times, but it is a great thing. Stuart Moore, the wonderful Marvel writer and editor, has been in charge of these Marvel prose books for a while now, a couple of years, and they're fantastic. They're excellent, and I'm always a big sucker in a good way to get the Marvel or DC novels. And I should have more of these people that write these great books on, because I think they're wonderful expansions of the universes, and they're more thoughtful. I mean, comic books are 22 to 20 pages. It's tough to get everything down. Brevity is the name of the game. Let the art speak for itself, but this gives the writers a chance to really expand the stories, and I'm a huge fan. I'm also a huge fan of Greg's current series for Boom, Mech Cadet Yu, a book that he is doing with Takeshi Miyazawa again, and they did some wonderful work back in the day with Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, and for Jonathan Colton's excellent collaboration with Greg, Code Monkey Save World, that featured all the short stories that were based on Jonathan's great songs. And these guys are fantastic together, and it's really a great series. And you'll hear me gush about it with Greg in this conversation on Word Balloon. Word Balloon, of course, is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your support. I am here in Salt Lake City through the graces of you, and I appreciate that. And we'll be as well in New York at New York Comic-Con in 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Word Balloon is free. It'll always be free. But if you like the podcast and you feel you can help out and contribute through subscription to Word Balloon, I'd really appreciate it. Is Word Balloon worth the price of a comic book a month? I hope so. I think September's been an incredible month where I've had some amazing guests and a great volume of people that really needed to get on as soon as possible, and I'm happy to accommodate. So it's great to share these great conversations with you, the insight from the creators, whether it's the creative process or just their fun, points of view on geek culture kind of topics. So go to wordballoon.com, click on the Patreon ad. That'll take you to my Patreon page, or you can go directly to patreon.com/wordballoon. Word Balloon is also brought to you by our great sponsor, InStock Trades, at InStockTrades.com. And there are some tremendous books that are available now at InStockTrades.com. Who can forget the great run of the Legion of Superheroes by Dan Abnett and Andy Lamming and Olivier Coipel, I want to say his name properly because he taught me how to say it. But 224 pages of their fantastic run. It collects Legionnaires 78 through 81, Legion of Superheroes 122 through 125, and The Secret Files #2 of Legion of Superheroes. This was really, really great stuff, man. Such a great collection. And it's 50% off. It's just $12.49. You can get the Daredevil Epic Collection, Heart of Darkness. This is Ann Nocenti. Who thought that anyone could follow Frank Miller back in the day on Daredevil? Well, Ann Nocenti proved she could. And it was a tremendous run. Who was her artist back then? Was it John Romita? Was it Johnny Jr.? Of course it was. But also, let's see, it looks like Mark Bagley's in this collection as well, and several others. It looks like Peter David maybe wrote a little bit of this as well. But it's a great collection, and it covers Daredevil 271 to 82 and the annuals 5 and 6. Material from Punisher, annual number 3, Incredible Hulk, annual number 16, and Silver Surfer, annual number 3. Really neat stories, 488 pages, 50% off, $19.99. You can get Thor, The Trial of Thor, Alan Davis, and, Tonchi Zonjic, who's a wonderful artist. Oh, my God, I love that guy's stuff. But this collects Thor, Truth of History, Wolves of the North, The Trial of Thor, and The Rage of Thor, the 2009 Thor annual, Thor, Heaven and Earth, 1 through 4, and material from Dark Reign, The Cabal. This is 288 pages of Thor goodness, 50% off, $14.99. And of course here, because we're talking about Greg Pak today, and why not also include the Planet Hulk Omnibus that we talk about, which is 656 pages. This collects Fantastic Four 533 through 535, Incredible Hulk 88 through 105, Giant Size Hulk number 1, What If Planet Hulk, Planet Hulk Gladiator Guidebook, and new material from New Avengers Illuminati number 1 and Amazing Fantasy 2004-15. I mentioned this, I think, last week. Isn't that ironic numbering? Because, of course, Spider-Man back in 1962 had debuted in Amazing Fantasy 15. So, 62 or 61. You guys can check me on that. 42% off, $58 at InStockTrades.com. Check out all the great books, great prices. Your favorite writers and authors, writers and artists are waiting for you at InStockTrades.com. Can you hear a little congestion? I got a little sinus infection going on, but I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But I'm in the hotel room. That's why the sound sounds a little funky on the intro and outro. But don't worry. Very clear, crystal clear conversation with Greg Pak coming your way now on Word Balloon. He's back. It's Greg Pak, and I'm so excited because he's got a lot of shit going on, and it's all fantastic. Welcome back, dude.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure. And yes, I do have a lot of stuff going on, and it's I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Truly, and honestly. I want to start with the Boom book, Mech Cadet Yu, because it looks amazing, and of course it does. It's your old buddy, and it's Takahashi. Am I saying his name?
Tak Miyazawa.
Miyazawa. Thank you.
Takeshi Miyazawa.
Takeshi. Thank you. Yes, Takeshi Miyazawa, who, of course, Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, the Jonathan Colton stuff, you guys together, Code Monkey Save World. Am I missing something?
Yeah, well, he was the swing artist on Runaways and also Ms. Marvel. So he's done a lot. I mean, he's great. He's fantastic. And we're collaborating again together on a creator-owned book for Boom called Mech Cadet Yu, about a kid and his giant robot.
Yes, sir. And very, again, being as old as I am, although I remember catching it mostly in reruns, my thoughts immediately turned to Johnny Sacco.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty obvious kind of classic genre by now, and, Big Guy and Rusty and a million other more modern examples.
Oh, yeah.
But especially the beginning, and now I'm forgetting the name of the older... Skip Tanaka. Skip Tanaka, go on.
Yeah, so it's set in a world where every few years, mysterious giant robots from outer space descend upon the Arizona desert, and they bond with whatever kids they happen to find there. They kind of pick kids. They sort of pick the worthy kids. And Skip Tanaka was the first of these kids. Like 60 years ago, this Boy Scout was out in the camping out in the desert, and he bonded with the first of these giant robots. And since then, the government has set up a military academy in the desert to train cadets to bond with these robots, so that these robots can be incorporated into the military complex here. And the world has been threatened by these alien monsters called the Sharg, and so these cadets in their giant robots have become the kind of the frontline defense against the threat of the Sharg. So that's kind of the setup for the whole story. Our hero is not one of these cadets. He's the son of the janitor at the school. So he's this underdog kid who basically cleans up after all the other kids, and he kind of longs to be part of this whole thing, but he's not. There's a snotty older kid, a cadet, the daughter of the general, who's basically giving him a hard time because he's the janitor. So
and she's the alpha female, if you will. Exactly.
But through a series of interesting events, he ends up bonding with one of these robots. And he becomes a cadet himself. So it's the story of this underdog kid and his underdog robot trying to make their way in this elite academy and also prepare for this big world, this big threat to the world as the Sharg return.
It's great, man. It's very Top Gun in its kind of cadet way.
That's funny.
Top Gun meets Iron Giant in a lot of ways.
That's awesome. I had not made that connection. That's a great. That's a good one though. Yeah. It's got.
There's your pull quote from me.
There you go. I'd been going with Harry Potter, but Top Gun actually is that's a pretty good one. Because I originally pitched it to Boom as Harry Potter meets Pacific Rim, and they immediately got what I was going for. But we haven't said that out loud a lot because when you say Harry Potter, people think it's about magic. But when I say Harry Potter meets Pacific Rim, I mean that school,
right? The school,
the school thing, the school, the academy aspect of Harry Potter.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing, and I mean honestly, given the backdrop too. Yeah, I'm thinking test pilots and stuff. So
well, the Top Gun meets Iron Giant is pretty awesome. That's I may try that out. I may borrow that from you.
My carte blanche. Absolutely, my pleasure. Absolutely, too funny. But dude, Tak's storytelling is so clear.
Oh yeah,
and honestly, and I know that obviously too. Tak is Japanese and you're Korean. Manga always hurts my brain to go the other direction. I honestly, dude, I don't know why. Because everyone else can do it, and it's kind of like God, I don't even know, stringing a yo-yo or whatever. I don't know. I'm uncoordinated. My brain is uncoordinated that way. So it is so great. Because honestly, giant robot stuff usually does make my eyes roll in the back of my head and go, yeah, all right, that's cool. I mean, God bless everyone who loves it. Usually not my bag. But seriously, everybody was raving about this. I saw the cover and immediately got excited and saw that it was you and Tak again. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And so then I read it, and it's like, oh, this, I'm really pleased, and I am very enthusiastic about this because it's excellent, and it got a non-convert like me
That's
reading
awesome.
it, and truly, both issues that I've been privy to, well, they're both out, obviously. Actually, issue 2 just came out last Wednesday as we're recording this. And no, it's fantastic, man. Is this an ongoing? What's the plan?
Yeah, well, it was so initially it was approved as a 4-issue mini, but I always had more story. I've got an initial outline for 12 issues.
Cool.
And so I had a way to do 4 issues and still have it be a tight story, but a story with a beginning, middle, and end. But I always, I really wanted. I just love working on this book. It's my favorite thing to work on, and I'm not supposed to say that, but it's true. It's my favorite. It's my favorite of my children right now. I'd love to write this book forever, but it did. It did well, and the reviews were just through the roof. It's the best reviewed thing I've done in years. It's the best reviewed thing any of us have done in years. And folks were, there's fan art. It's awesome. The response online has been tremendous. I had, and from other creators and stuff. It's been really, really gratifying. I think also it kind of it hits the right time. It's an entirely non-cynical story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The kid is a plucky underdog hero who's he's a scrappy fighter with a heart of gold, and I just love the kid, and he can't hide what he's thinking. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a good kid, and he's fighting hard, and the antagonists are just really kind of fun. His snotty rival is I think she's just a blast.
This is supposed to be her opportunity. It's so funny. I saw, and I'm guessing you might have as well, YouTube's Red Channel, and they're making that new Karate Kid, 25 years later or 30 years later.
Right, yeah.
And the kid who plays Johnny in the press conference gave this very impassioned speech about, Johnny's not a bad guy, and don't forget he does shake Daniel's hand at the end and says, you're all right. He's like, but really from Johnny's standpoint of the story, he's like, this was going to be Johnny's year. He's a senior and stuff, and he's big man on campus, is about to go off to college. One last victory lap with his best girl, hottest girl in school and everything. And then this LaRusso kid comes and screws everything up for him. And I kind of feel like, and I know Stanford is your.
Stanford is the young hero.
Yeah, and what's the girl's name? The rival?
Park. Yeah, Park. We haven't revealed her first name yet, but her last name is Park.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah, Cadet Park, because General Park is her father. This is Cadet Park's year. It's all laid out for her. Her dad's the general. She's going to get a robot. Everything's going to be awesome.
Yeah. She's the top. Yeah, she's the best student. She's got the most skills, and it all gets screwed up because of this jerk kid.
Damn little Stanford.
Yeah, this wide-eyed innocent kid who comes in and screws everything up.
But that's what I mean. Complete clarity, both in Tak's art and your story, and that's great. I think it is. I think it is the kind of optimistic, fun story that a lot of us are like, did they make those anymore?
So for me, it's this story that's been in my head forever. I years ago I made this movie Robot Stories, and it was an anthology movie with 4 different stories about basically about families and couples struggling with the kind of things families and couples struggle with. But in each story there's a fun robot twist, and so. For years, I just had a bunch of other robot story ideas in my head, and this is one of them that's kind of been rolling around for basically since 2001 or so.
Wow.
It was never anything that I ever thought I could do on film, because the budget for something like this would be just through the roof. But when I started working in comics, I worked up some outlines and I started thinking about it, and eventually, after I got to know Tak, it was like, this is the guy. Clearly, who should draw this thing. And we did a 10-page sort of little pilot episode story for an anthology, an Asian American comics anthology called Shattered. And then that eventually is what, I showed to Boom, and we got in to get the green light to do the series. But yeah, it's a story that I've been also hungry to do, because for years, I've been writing comics for 13 years now, and there's very few. Yeah, I know, it's nuts, but there's very few things that I can sort of share with just anybody. You know what I mean? Like with kids specifically. I have so many kids. Like I go to a con, there's a million kids who come to my table with their parents and all that. And for a long time, I didn't really have anything that was really appropriate for. For once kids are like 13, 14 or whatever, 12, 12 and up, they can read pretty much. That's like PG-13, right? They can read just about everything I've written. But for younger kids. I can't give a younger kid Weapon X,
right?
I can't, that's a little too, that's too hardcore. And over the years I've done, Tak and I did a couple of children's books together.
Yeah, your Kickstarters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I've had that, but I've been hungry to do a comic, that I can just give to anybody. And so this is a genuinely all ages book. I think it's totally, adults adore it, but I think it's also totally appropriate for kids.
Absolutely.
And so that's very gratifying to have finally done. To have a book like that I can that anybody can to have something for all different audiences is a kick in the pants.
Well, and I'm glad that it found a home at Boom. And I'm sure they're letting you do your own thing with this. It's a fresh concept, and it's it's totally unencumbered by any existing universe, so you can just do it the way you guys want to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's also, I mean, I love working on all of the work. I love doing all the work for hire stuff I do. I love playing in those big universes. But it is very gratifying to, to build your own world and and to be able to develop all those different aspects on your own and to have everything serve this one story. It's incredibly gratifying. The editors at Boom have been amazing. And this is why I went with Boom also, because Cameron Chitaku is one of the editors. He came up to me at a con when I was doing a signing. I think I was doing a signing for the Hero Initiative, and he came up at San Diego Comic-Con, and I think he came and found me there. And he said, "Hey, I like your stuff. I love your stuff, and I, was wondering if you might have anything." And I was like, "You know what?" And I pitched him the thing, and later on I sent him the 10-page story and all of that. He immediately got it. He loved it, and I just really wanted to work with him because he got it, and he and Eric Harburn, who is the other editor, have been tremendous because they're helping me make the story. They're helping me tell the story I want to tell. Like, they want to tell the story I want to tell. They're helping me tell it. They're helping me make it better. Like, everything they do is about helping make it better, and it's just it's been a tremendous experience. Like, the fact that can
you give some examples?
Yeah. Here's a very specific example. In the second issue, there's a point where Stanford finally arrives at the school.
Mm-hmm.
He's the new kid at the school, and Skip Tanaka is sort of doing the first class with the kids where they start talking about the robots and start training with the robots and everything. And they said, Eric and Cameron were like, "This is awesome, but it would be great if you kind of give a little bit more detail about how they actually work with or control the robots, because it wasn't really clear. I mean, we know they're called pilots. They're riding inside of the these cockpits inside the robots, but how are they actually interfacing with the robots or controlling them?" And it was just a great note because it's just one of those. It's a little thing that helps us understand that relationship, and I was just talking to them, and I said, "Oh yeah, I always thought of it as like a kind of like riding a horse. They're not like because the robots are sentient, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's not like they're in a jet plane and they're just working a bunch of controls. Instead, it's more like the controls are more like reins than they are steering wheels,
Sure.
So they're working with their robots rather than just driving them. And so, so I included a few lines where Skip talks about that, and I think it helps a lot. You know what I mean? That's one. It's a small detail that helps us understand that the robots are their own people as well, and that there's going to be growth with the robots are going to have their own little character arcs as well as
very
the kids.
cool, excellent. And of course, there's the alien, the outside alien threat that the military has been using the robots to potentially face.
Yes,
and so that's obviously a dangling shoe.
Yes, and there will be. I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying you will see kids and robots fighting giant monsters.
Excellent. In space, he said. Hopefully,
I'm not going to promise that just yet. Eventually, I'm sure, but keep your eyes open.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and then they like some of the other stuff. They had there was another thing where they just had a few suggestions on rearranging certain scenes in certain issues, and it's just it's small things of like, maybe it'll be better if this goes before this and you end with this, and it was like, oh yeah, that will be better. I mean, like, that kind of stuff that's solid gold when you have people who care about the story as much as you, who are thinking about it deeply and are coming up with stuff like that makes total sense.
That shows the real value of editors. I mean, that's why some of this creator-owned stuff, I think, if you don't have an editor you can trust, not just to spell check for you, but to really get involved in a story capacity, that helps.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, and that's that's exactly why I went with Boom, because Tak and I believe it or not, this was a project Tak and I talked about doing as a Kickstarter way back when. Like we were going to do this as a Kickstarter we were possibly going to do this as a Kickstarter before Code Monkey Save World.
Oh,
and then I started talking. Yeah, exactly. And then I started talking with Jonathan, and that and the Code Monkey Save World thing all came together, and we did that instead. But yeah, I mean that was a possibility that we could have done this as a Kickstarter. It would have been tough because it's hard to do a Kickstarter for an original comics project.
Absolutely.
and actually pay people and have that thing be 80 pages or 100 pages. It's the cost of, if you're really going to pay people their rate, the costs get really high really quickly.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's a big ask. It's not easy.
Well, you got to hope that your fans are not only going to just follow you because it's you, but also really like the concept, Yeah.
Well, yeah, they have to. I mean, you're going to get a certain, I think without tooting my horn too much, I mean, I've got tremendous fans, and I mean, like folks who have there's some folks who have backed every single one of the Kickstarters I've done. It's amazing. So I feel like there's a lot of goodwill there, and I really, I love those folks to death. And I know that some of them will come on board just about anything I do. But if you want to, the project has to be awesome. And, if you want to hit a high goal, you got to really, it's got to be special. I mean, and I think this is very special. Agreed. And I think it would have done well on Kickstarter, but it's better. I think it's a better book for being where it is with this specific group.
And hey, man, Wan Do, great job on colors.
Oh yeah,
Seriously.
Actually, Wando did one of the cover. Yeah, the cover. Is that what you said?
I thought he did. I thought he colored the book. Excuse me.
Oh no, it's Triona Farrell is the colorist.
Well,
Wando did some of the variant covers, which are also awesome. But yeah, Triona Farrell is the colorist. I worked with her on the Big Trouble in Little China book, the Big Trouble in Little China New York book. Did. She's great. And
was that the crossover? Was that the Big Trouble?
Yeah. That was the Big Trouble Escape from New York crossover that we did. It's ridiculous. The trade paperback of that actually is just coming out. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So feel free. Keep an eye out, friends.
Absolutely.
I'll probably have some at Baltimore and New York Comic Con. So come find me there.
Very good. Excellent.
And then Simon Boland is lettering. Simon's my go-to guy for all my creator-owned lettering. And
very cool. Looked great.
So it's it's a fun crew. I mean, I love everybody who's working on it, and it's been just a tremendous amount of fun. So I hope folks will check it out.
Indeed. And so it's just 2 issues in, and so the first story arc is the 4 issues.
Yeah, and then we've got I don't remember if I got this out. So it was approved as a 4-issue mini, but it did so well that they have made it into an ongoing.
Excellent. I did ask, and you said it wasn't an ongoing, but that's great, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's literally, I mean, this is one of my dreams. One of my dreams for years has been to have a creator-owned ongoing, and it seems to be coming together.
Well, I'm a convert because this is not my kind of book normally, but it was excellent, and absolutely, dude. So how are things going with Kingsway West?
We did the 4 issues on that, and we're kind of debating on what next steps will be.
Okay.
Like that. I mean, similarly, I'd love to, keep that going. But it's a little trickier just scheduling wise with that particular book. So I need to talk to folks, and we'll hopefully we have not seen the end of that. So knock on wood.
Okay. And what else? Anything else going on the either creator-owned front or some of these other things before we get into Marvel?
Yeah. Well, I do have. I'm writing the John Wick book for Dynamite.
Hey, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a prequel story that should come out. I think it just went to the printer. We're a couple of weeks late, unfortunately, but it went to the printer, and I think ittle be coming out in a couple of weeks.
Is it a one shot or is it a story arc? What is it?
It's a 4. It's a 5-issue story.
Okay.
And then and hopefully we'll keep doing them.
Who's your artist?
Giovanni Veneta, I think is. I'm terrible. I've forgotten how to pronounce his last name. He's great. If you go, Valletta. Sorry,
Giovanni Valletta.
Yeah, Giovanni Valletta. So you can Google his name and John Wick, and you will see a tremendous cover that he did. It's just gorgeous, and he's amazing. He's one of these guys. I mean, he's got a great ability to draw likenesses, but not be stiff. You know what I mean? Like, and that is a big challenge on a book like this, because you want to, I mean, it's important on a movie tie-in book to nail those likenesses. But sometimes folks who are really good at doing likenesses aren't necessarily good at, making them feel alive and work in a comic book context. But Gio's got it. So I'm looking forward to folks seeing it.
I'm looking at the cover right now, and it's pretty goddamn amazing. And he's got the likeness down, but it's a very dynamic cover.
Yeah.
And no, that's awesome. Well, John Wick obviously has its own language as far as movie, storytelling goes and stuff like that. So that must have been an interesting challenge.
Oh yeah. We're in the thick of it. So we're making these books even as we speak. So I hope you guys will get a kick out of it when it comes out. I mean, it's a fun thing to dig into, because what's out in public right now is just 2 movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there's so much fun mythology and so much stuff that has not been defined, and so much that's just kind of hinted at. I've been lucky enough to be able to talk to the screenwriter and all that, and it's a really cool world, and we're being able to contribute to it through this book is a real kick in the pants.
What kind of vetting was there for this? As far as I imagine, is it the movie company? Is it the specific producers? Who do you send?
Yeah. No, it goes through. Well, Dynamite handles all that, but it goes through. It all has to be approved. So it goes through several different folks. I believe that in the end, Keanu himself takes a peek at it. So I have not yet been able to, I have not yet met the man or spoken to the man himself. I hope that'll happen someday.
That's hilarious. That'd be great.
I love him.
Sure.
I've always,
right man for the right role. It really, it really fit. And honestly, we all love the straight to video world of a hitman, on a man on a mission kind of thing and stuff. That's always great. But they really did hit a great, alchemy with everything that went into John Wick, both movies. And it's a fun character, and I obviously Keanu has a big part of that as well. But just
I think he's absolutely key to the whole thing, because and I think he's gotten. I think he started to get the real recognition he deserves for that, but the role would simply not work with somebody who can't do what he does. Like what gives the movie so much dynamic power, or the movies so much dynamic power, is the way he could just move through the frame, and they don't have to cut. You know what I mean? He's doing all this crazy stuff, and he looks amazing. He's like, he's trained. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to move his body. He's he's like a dancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something. I mean, that's solid gold, man. Not anybody can do that. In fact, there's like 5 guys who can do that. You know what I'm saying? It's an amazing skill.
Well,
and combine that with his, with his deadpan humor and everything else, and it's just, it's amazing. He's got it. I mean, I couldn't imagine this movie with anybody else.
He had that wilderness period though, where it wasn't quite the right project or something. I always remember what William Friedkin said, 1,000 things have to go right for a movie to be good. And, that's a lot. So something was missing on a few of his most recent films. But yeah, John Wick. And also he's just at that right age now, too, to do this role and everything. So,
totally. Yeah. It's funny. I was reading some interviews, and it's like the screenplay was originally designed for even older guy, and I think Keanu just turned 50 something, but he doesn't look it, but he does look. Yeah,
that's shocking.
But he's remarkably well preserved.
Yeah.
But no, he looks fantastic, but he does have gravitas now. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like he's, he can inhabit a role like this. You can feel like this guy's been around, and has a history. So it's the right role at the right time for the right actor,
That's cool, man. No, I'm psyched to see what you do with the character. I think that's terrific.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Attaboy. Very cool. All right, now on to Marvel, because good timing. I'm glad that with Ragnarok coming out, the Thor movie, everyone who knows comics knows that those gladiator scenes really can't come from Planet Hulk. All right, I'm going to ask you one question, and I'm not asking this as your tax consultant or your ex-wife that is checking over things and making sure I get my cut. But seriously, like, did Marvel take care of you? I feel like I'm a mob boss. Hey, did they take care of you on this? Because clearly it is. Your work is all over this thing.
Well, I've signed documents that don't allow me to answer questions like this, unfortunately.
Okay. If that's the case, then I'll accept that answer. We'll move on to the speed round. It's like a game show. No, honestly, man, because, hey, and I'm just saying this as a guy who likes you on a personal level, but also as a fan, that we hear the stories and we hear the guys that, like even poor, Len Wein, who just passed away, thankfully got a check. Not what he deserves in terms of creating Wolverine, but he finally did get a check that he was like, all right, he seemed all right. At least on the record and everything, that all right, fine, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think the companies are doing. I think they're aware of the need to do well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they've. I mean, you look at one of my heroes, Bill Mantlo.
Yes, by the way, I mean, we're talking about the novel now, and you dedicate the novel Planet Hulk to.
Yeah, I did.
So
exactly,
go on, talk about Bill Mantlo.
So Bill Mantlo is a Marvel writer. When I was a kid, my favorite Marvel comic was Micronauts, and Bill Mantlo was the first comics writer who I really paid attention to as a writer. It was like, oh my God, Bill Mantlo is writing the Micronauts, because I just loved that series so much.
Sure.
And then he wrote just incredibly important issues of the Hulk.
Yes.
He wrote a lot he wrote the Hulk for years, and he wrote a bunch of the stuff that had a big influence on me when I started writing the Hulk. He did a storyline called The Crossroads, where the Hulk is exiled to a bunch of different worlds. And it's kind of like this epic series of Twilight Zone episodes almost, where the Hulk is sort of like going from world to world and looking for a place where he might belong.
Were those the black and white magazine stories, or were they in the comics?
No, that's a different thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But that was a different thing altogether. No, The Crossroads ran from, I think, issues something like 301 to 313, something like that.
Okay.
And so there's certain parallels there. I mean, there's a similarity with some of that stuff to what we did with Planet Hulk, where the Hulk is sent off to a different world. Of
course.
And also the huge events that happened right before the Crossroads was basically Hulk versus the Marvel Universe. The Hulk was sort of driven insane by Nightmare and went rampaging through New York. And I definitely took a good long look at those issues before or while I was writing World War Hulk. And then Mantlo also wrote, and as part of the Crossroads storyline, there are a number of incredibly powerful scenes where we learn about Bruce Banner's childhood, and we learn that Bruce was abused as a child by his father, and his mother was actually killed by his father. And so and you sort of understand where this repressed rage comes from for this guy, and they're just incredible stories, and that had a big influence on me, particularly as I was writing the story of Sakaar. Sakaar is the Hulk's son.
Yep.
The Hulk has a barbarian, half alien barbarian son that he never knew about, who was left behind on the planet, on this alien planet, and who eventually comes looking for his father. That whole abusive, that history of abuse in the Hulk's in Bruce's life, resonates throughout that and affects that relationship. And so that was all just a really big deal to me, and so Mantlo's work was so important to me for all those reasons. I dedicated my run on the Hulk to Mantlo when I finished my first run on the Hulk.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But the tragedy is that Bill Mantlo was hit by a hit and run accident while, I think, rollerblading or roller skating or maybe just jogging, I can't remember now, in New York City in the 90s, and suffered brain damage, and has needed a lot of help ever since. And so from time to time I've helped spread the word about that. I mean, so a lot of amazing people have done a lot, and Bill's brother Mike Mantlo is his primary caregiver, and but I'm always up for helping folks find out more about Bill Mantlo and kick a few dollars his way if they are able to. Yeah. But I brought him up in this context because Mike was I think when Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out, Bill was sort of being talked about because he was the co-creator of Rocket Raccoon, who of course is a huge part of that movie. Absolutely. And Mike Mantlo went public and said that Marvel had really come through, and and he was not specific,
sure.
But the strong implication is that Marvel came through in a really good way, with some dollars.
Sure.
And also they that Marvel also kind of did a special screening of the movie for Bill. Went to Bill and did and showed
that's
the movie
terrific.
and all that. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I think. I think there's an awareness at the companies of the importance of these legacy creators.
Well, and again, I mean, Planet Hulk was and World War Hulk were huge stories of the aughts, as we look back now in the 2000 to 2010 period.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's over 10 years now.
Well, and it's funny. I heard Heidi McDonald saying that's where the nostalgia is right now, is for the aughts, and even the 90s are starting to get oversaturated. So now,
oh my God,
I know, man, Jesus Christ, it's like really, we called that yesterday.
I know, it's really weird. Well, I've now written comics long enough that adults will come to me at cons and tell me that one of my comics was their introduction to comics.
Fantastic.
I'm like that's just bizarre. I can't even wrap my head around that.
That's excellent.
It's amazing, and I love it. And I love meeting those folks. But yeah, it's a little surreal.
Well, and part of the fun of your story in Planet Hulk was these alien gladiator kind of moments and everything. And like I said, it's reflected in Ragnarok, and I'm glad that you are getting a chance to do this novel now. Is it out now, or does it come out in November? When does it come out?
It comes out. I think it hits comic shops on October 4th.
Okay, cool.
And then it hits Amazon, or it hits the mainstream stores, I think, a couple of weeks after that. I think there's usually a 2-week lag there.
So leading into the movie, obviously, which comes in mid-November.
Yeah. So I got a call from Stuart Moore, or an email from Stuart.
Excellent.
And Stuart has been editing these prose novels that Marvel's been putting out, and
for a few years now.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing a Planet Hulk prose novel, and would you be interested in writing it?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And I was, very grateful they came to me, and it's my first novel. So
wow.
I had a huge amount of fun writing it.
Was it truly? Because honestly, I was wondering if it was fun, or was it too kind of a chore because you've done the story? No. But yeah, go on. Tell me how it's different.
It was a blast. Well, I think it was a blast for a couple of reasons. One, because I first started writing in prose when I was a kid. Prose was the first thing that I ever wrote. And so I've always, kind of wanted to write more. I've wanted to write prose professionally for quite some time, but I've never sort of, when you're working in comics, you have constant deadlines and it's very hard to make time for other stuff. Just frankly, it's hard to make the time, yes. Right? If your paycheck doesn't depend on it. And so I was really grateful for the opportunity to get a gig where where I would be getting a paycheck and therefore would have to write it. Sure. But no, so it was. It's a real thrill to write prose. In some ways, because you can dig, you can delve a little deeper into certain places.
Sure.
And in a story as big as Planet Hulk, where we did so much world building, it gave us the opportunity it gave me the opportunity to dig a little deeper here and there, and to give a little more context and a little more nuance to some moments. And also, Planet Hulk is also a story with a lot of different people.
Yes.
It's all these different characters, and they've all got different angles and attitudes about what's going on, and so it was fun to be able to dip into I mean, the point of view throughout the story changes a little bit, in the novel.
Yes.
We're always returning to the Hulk, but we go into the heads of different characters at different times, and that was just a huge amount of fun. I mean, like, that world, I think, benefits from being looked at from different angles, and and then it was also fun because I could we revisited I actually the story departs from the original in a few significant ways. And that was a lot of fun to kind of explore slightly different angles at certain points. So I'm not going to spoil where those are, exactly how it differs. But I'm biased, of course, but I think it's pretty great. So
no, man, it is. And as you say, you get to expand and get into different points of views. And the preface starts with the betrayal of the Marvel heroes. And even more specifically, just this great conversation between Bruce and Reed. And it is such a, man, you just, Mr. Fantastic, you piece of shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also got a chance to do a little bit more with Mr. Fantastic later on down the line, where you see how much responsibility he has. You know what I mean? Yeah. And how many things he's juggling all the time. He's the smartest man on the planet. And he's got there's so many crises, and you sort of, and I'm trying to give a little more context to why he felt like they needed to get Bruce off the map. Yep. You know what I mean? It's But yeah, so like having that space to do all of that was just a huge amount of fun. That's
cool. I love the maps as well. Now, were the maps in the original?
Yeah. I mean, the maps were in the Gladiator guidebook that we did. There was a little one shot that we did. Yeah, I think it was about halfway through the story, and and it had all of these stats about the different players and all this kind of, or the different characters, and it included those maps. So yeah, I didn't know that they were going to incorporate the art and the maps into the book, so that was a pleasant surprise when I saw that.
Very cool. And hey, I maybe I'm wrong. Did they re-release the omnibus of Planet Hulk as well? In fact, I think I just did a commercial for it on a recent Word Balloon podcast.
Oh yeah. They had never done a true omnibus. They done a there was a hardcover collection of just the Planet Hulk part of the story. Yes. But I think this I could be wrong, but I think this omnibus includes World War. Does it include World War Hulk as well? I'm not sure. I think it does.
I believe it does. Yes, I think in the new collection it does.
I think it's the whole shebang. And it also includes Daniel Way's Prelude to Planet Hulk story that came before.
And a what if, and also a what if Planet Hulk.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it's got all that crazy stuff. I haven't yet got my hands on it myself. I'm eager to see what that whole thing looks like.
Very cool. Well, and honestly, I think the novel flow's great. You're really given an opportunity to tell the story from a bunch of different points of view. And of course, I mean, there are just the limitations of what was a 22-page comic book, each chapter and everything. And I mean, this is how many pages? A few hundred pages, obviously.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it's a funny thing because I think it's perfect as I shouldn't say perfect, but I love it as a graphic novel. You know what I mean, or as comics. I mean, that's where it began. But for whatever reason, when I heard the idea of doing a novel, that immediately appealed to me. I love it as a novel. You know what I mean? Like as a prose novel. I don't think every story needs to be done in every different format. But I think for certain stories, there's a lot of you can get some extra oomph out of playing with it.
Well, and also, Greg, your era when you were telling this events weren't. I mean, maybe it was near the beginning of when we were getting hammered with events more and more, but I think it was still yearly. And also, there were tie-ins, but not as many as there are today. And yeah, the event was still something special. And also, to do an event where it's the Hulk and everything, that's a gamble. And the great thing is, it's going to be a knockout from an artistic standpoint, because you get to tell big splashy moments of the Hulk fighting people. And you get great artists. And forgive me, I'm forgetting who the artist was originally.
Yeah, we had Carlo Pagulan and Aaron Lopresti were the two main artists.
They don't well, and also, by the way, lots of moments are in the novel as well, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, the novel, yeah, just about everything that happens in the graphic novel is in the novel in one way or another. And then there's more, like the novel actually.
But I mean, art wise.
Oh, art wise, yeah. I mean, not well, yeah. They
have moments,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But and that's what I was going to say is like, all right, but no, I mean this is a very rich story. It truly, and I'm saying this, lines up with like Harlan Ellison, who younger readers may not remember, but Harlan Ellison had that wonderful story about Jarella, who was, from the microscopic world, essentially a different sort of alien world for the Hulk to come to and be a gladiator and have that kind of gladiatorial life, and also a full life as the Hulk. And that's what's exciting about Planet Hulk too is, it's not just Hulk smash. He's got his wits about him as well. And that's what makes it such a great book. And again, the betrayal from the Marvel Universe, being completely left to his own devices in this world. And of course, he's got his brute strength and anger to carry him through, but he's also got to be smart and create alliances. And it's a very Spartacus kind of story.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic kind of gladiator story, and it's also a romance.
Absolutely.
I mean it's I think all those things together helped make it what it was. I mean, what I looking back on it, also in writing the novel, one of the things that I felt so grateful about too was just the chance that we were given free rein to really develop all of the supporting characters, the story works because everybody, because it's a fleshed out world, and because all those characters matter. You know what I mean? I really love all those different characters, and they all have their own arc and their own they're all the heroes of their own story. And I think sometimes we can get worried about cluttering a story. You know what I mean? And that's a valid worry that a story gets too cluttered, it gets too complicated. But at the same time, you got to give stories room to breathe, and you got to give the supporting cast room to really come to life and to matter.
Yes.
Because otherwise we don't care. You know what I mean? Otherwise they're just set dressing. And so I'm eternally grateful to, my editors and everybody who helped with that book, and and that for the fact that we had the space and the time to make those characters who they were.
Very cool. And it was great to follow their story then to World War Hulk, because they come with the Hulk.
Yeah.
Kind of making their pardon me, presence known on on Earth as well. And I would imagine then that next year we will likely see World War Hulk.
You mean a novel of the World War Hulk? We have not yet talked about that, actually. So I don't know. I don't know.
That's so funny, because I remember however many years ago it was when they did the animated Planet Hulk movie, and a good friend of mine is like, well, they're going to do World War Hulk, aren't they? And he's not a regular comic book reader, and I'm like, I don't know. I hope so. And I don't think they ever did they?
No, they didn't.
Oh,
man.
Didn't. And it's that's like, oh, Jesus, because that is, where finally it's like, hey, guess who's back? And he's really pissed, and it's fantastic. That's the thing. It's like, it really is that whole, like, he's got every right to be mad, and here's his chance to really just let it all out. And oh my God, and I know I've told you this before, and truly, Planet Hulk is wonderful, and it's a great story. But World War Hulk, when he's on the moon, and Black Bolt just says stop or no or whatever he says, maybe it was just no.
Yeah.
And and the Hulk cuts through that sound barrier and just tears Black Bolt to shreds. And it's just like, you can't help but have that vicarious, like, yeah.
Now that was fun. I mean, that scene, I think, is actually what sold John Romita Jr. on the whole project. You know what I mean?
Like, you telling me that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, he saw that and he was like, okay, this is kind of badass. I'll do this. So I was very happy about that.
That's outstanding, man. No, this is great. And it comes out. The novel comes out again. You said October 5th, right?
Yeah, October 4th, I think.
October 4th. Okay, very cool, man. Right in time for New York Comic Con, so that's lovely.
Yeah.
In your backyard. So,
exactly.
And you just said you're going to be in Baltimore and New York, correct?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you in New York.
Excellent. Good.
Very good. Always happy to see you guys. Absolutely, man. I have to. If I can, I always try to make it to New York.
Excellent.
But all right, so let's, if we could, before we wrap up, I want to know what's going on in Amadeus Cho's world and also Bruce Banner's world, because now that we're in post-Secret Empire, give me the status quo of the Totally Awesome Hulk and the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, well, so the last issue of Totally Awesome Hulk is issue number 23, and that comes out this coming Wednesday. I don't know whether or not this will be this coming Wednesday or last Wednesday.
I will do my best to get it out by the 20th, but go on.
Oh, okay, cool. So, and then the book becomes the story continues, but the book changes its title. It becomes The Incredible Hulk again, and it resumes its old numbering. So the next issue after Totally Awesome Hulk 23 will be Incredible Hulk number 709. And at that point, Amadeus is going to Planet Sakaar. So it's called Return to Planet Hulk, where through various
problems,
hijinks. Amadeus ends up. Yeah, exactly. Amadeus has to go to Planet Sakaar, the planet of Planet Hulk, and he's going to end up he becomes the champion of a group of folks who are fighting for their lives. So he has his own kind of Planet Hulk-like experience.
Crazy.
But he's a very different person than the Hulk was, and than the Banner Hulk was,
sure.
And he's struggling with different kinds of challenges. And so, we'll see whether or not he will be able to rise to the occasion here, and if he rises to the occasion, what the consequences will be.
So, what's happening with Bruce in the meantime? Because Bruce has been revived, correct? Was it? And you correct me. But initially, during Civil War II, did the Hand revive Bruce?
Well, I'm not at liberty to discuss any of that, unfortunately. So I cannot speak about Bruce. You'll have to read the books, my friends.
Okay, interesting. Well, and I mean, I know that your Generations issue obviously came out.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you're going to be doing something legacy. Now, will you be doing something legacy-wise in Incredible Hulk, or will it be happening in a separate book? What's going on?
The Return to Planet Hulk story is the Hulk legacy story. When the Marvel legacy stuff kicks in. So that'll be the Hulk legacy story. Meanwhile, I'm also writing Weapon X, and the Weapon X legacy story will involve a platoon of nuke soldiers.
Nuke, as far as the super soldier Captain America.
Yes, exactly. The guy with the flag on his face.
Indeed.
It pops the red pills.
I love it. Yeah, give me a red. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a red. Yeah. So, Weapon X will take on a platoon of nuke soldiers in the South American the war-torn South American country of Santa Marco.
And who's your team right now on Weapon X?
It is Logan, Sabretooth, Warpath, Lady Deathstrike, and Domino.
Crazy. And it's Old Man Logan, obviously, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So it's basically, the kind of the ongoing struggle of the book is Logan trying to keep this group of killers and loners and crazy people together. He's got a couple of straight up villains on the team, and it's kind of like if he doesn't find stuff for them to do, who knows what they're going to do? You know what I mean?
They'll get into. I understand.
Exactly. And also at any moment, how long are they gonna, like these guys could end up fighting with each other, or so it's a volatile team, and he's managed to find mutual enemies that they can snicked, so far, but particularly when you're taking on a bunch of nukes and you have a bunch of these crazy pills flying around, anything's possible.
Okay, but literally, like, even talking about stuff that Marvel has already published, like Civil War II and Secret Empire, you can't go back and give me Bruce's timeline up to that point?
No, I'm not.
You are hilarious.
I'm not going to open up those. I'm not going to open that up. I'm going to let folks find that themselves.
You're killing me. That's awesome. No, that's all good, man. Well, and truly, comic book deaths are not forever, and we all knew that. But I really did love everything you did leading up to Bruce's death, and of course the fallout from Bruce's death.
Oh yeah, those were because I love Banner. You know what I mean? I've always loved that. That's like when I think about my favorite characters to write, it's Clark Kent, Bruce Banner, Amadeus, I mean, like those three are kind of those are really my favorite, and now Stanford in Mech Cadet Yu. But yeah, no, I mean, there's just a way in which I've always kind of just got that character, and he's just a huge amount of fun for me to write. And so, I was very grateful to have the chance to do those send-off issues for him. And yeah, no, he's those issues meant a lot to me, so I'm glad they worked for you.
That's cool, man. Well, again, without going into detail, there's a foregone conclusion that a lot of the original versions of the characters are coming back in some sort of way, and I felt that you've always written Amadeus and Bruce as a great team, and so it'll be interesting to see whatever character dynamic they're exploring together. Coming up, because I think Amadeus has been a wonderful welcomed addition to the Marvel Universe. I also think that he was introduced and used properly for so many years before he graduated into taking over the book as he did.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and that's why it worked. You know what I mean? Like when I got the call and they said we're thinking about making Amadeus the Hulk, would you want to write him? I was like, oh yeah, I would. Like that totally makes sense. For 10 years, Amadeus has been kicking around as the Hulk's number one fan, as Bruce Banner's number one fan. And so and he's a super genius like Bruce, he's got that, that kind of, they've got that parallel. But it was also just compelling to me because it would be a different take, because Amadeus and Bruce, for all their similarities, are very different.
In the same way that another Bruce and his sidekick are very different. And it's fun to watch Dick Grayson graduate to Nightwing, and I think Amadeus Cho has a lot in common with Nightwing.
I think that's a good analogy. I think that's right.
Yeah, man. No, and truly, that's great. And I'm not gonna, truly, I was when I was asking if you got a check for Ragnarok, I truly just want to make sure that that the companies are doing right by their creators. I something I really felt like. The frustration that some of the readership had with Marvel in the last year or so is because individually everyone's like just by circumstance taking the main putting the original hero on the back burner in some sort of way, and it was all happening at the same time. And I think that's where it's like, do you want to do that to that degree? Where DC had the same problem in the 90s. And it was like, well, Green Lantern isn't Green Lantern anymore, and Green Arrow isn't Green Arrow anymore, and, Flash isn't Flash. Back when people gave a shit. Now it's hilarious watching people, they bring Barry back, and everyone's like, fuck you, we want Wally. But no, so I have no idea what's coming with Legacy, and obviously that's fine. I would rather get the story when it comes out. But I'm glad that, there's room for both versions, is I guess my point. And I think you handled it in a really positive way that everyone grew to love Amadeus Cho. Not only what you were doing with him, but like Slott using him in Mighty Avengers and stuff. That's the thing. Like I think we got a really nice broad view of the character, and so that it was time for him to kind of graduate and stuff. And like I said, it was a shock when Bruce died, but it's like, all right, that's fine. He'll be back. It's okay.
Yeah, it's comics.
Exactly. So, and again, I understand you can't talk, so I don't expect you to answer anything of what I just said. But it's all right. So,
I've already said too much.
Well,
I said nothing.
You said nothing,
But,
please.
Exactly.
All right, very cool. So, like you said, last issue of Totally Awesome Hulk comes out on the 20th, and then next month, mid-October or whatever, that's when we'll see. Is it? Did you say 573? What issue is it?
Issue 709.
709.
Return to
I wasn't even close.
Yes.
Not even close, John.
And it's drawn by Greg Land, and it's glorious and
Beautiful.
Big and fun.
Very
and
cool.
Frank Darmada's doing the colors, and they're gorgeous. And I think you're going to get a kick out of it. It's going to be fun.
What's Jen doing these days? What's She-Hulk doing these days? She's been struggling, right? Because she had, major trauma and has been and coming to grips with all of that. So I can't say where that book's going or what all's going on there, but it's been a new take on, She-Hulk, which I think has been great. Forgive me, I don't remember who's writing She-Hulk right now.
Jillian Tamaki, right?
Okay, that sounds right. Okay. You can look it up to confirm.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a no, I'm sorry. It's Mariko Tamaki. Jillian is her cousin, I think, who she's collaborating with. But no, Mariko is the one who's actually writing the book. That's my bad there. Apologies.
Well, my apologies for not knowing either. But okay, that's fine. I'll be interested to see what happens there. But in the meantime, we can look forward to a retelling from many different perspectives of Planet Hulk. Coming up in early October, and that's awesome. And again, Mech Cadet Yu is excellent from Boom. 2 issues in, can't recommend it enough. If your store doesn't have it, have them order issues 1 and 2 because it's just fantastic. And great to see you guys back together again, you and Tak. And now keep up the great work, Greg Pak. Like I said, man, I'm psyched with what you've been doing, and am waiting in anticipation in terms of what Marvel Legacy has in store for the Hulks.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in New York.
Greg Pak, I'm not kidding. Mech Cadet Yu blew me away, and like I said, not in my usual cup of tea, but I'm telling you, Tak and Pak have produced a hell of a book. It's worthy of your attention from Boom, and of course, all the amazing Planet Hulk stuff. Truly one of the epic Hulk stories of all time. And it's always great to revisit it. And now you can also really enjoy it in its original novel form from Greg Pak. So really neat stuff, and I'm really happy for what he's been doing. And as always, excited about all the Marvel Legacy stuff coming up with Greg Pak as well. So hope you enjoyed today's episode of Word Balloon, brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Truly, League, thank you for your support. I am saluting you now. A couple new members came on this week, and can't do it without you. Thank you very much for your help. League of Word Balloon listeners through Patreon. If you want to help, patreon.com/wordballoon or go to the front page of wordballoon.com. Word Balloon is also brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com. There's some really neat stuff that is available now from InStock Trades. How about this trade paperback, Mr. Miracle by Jack Kirby? It's the Kirby Centennial, and what a way to celebrate with 448 pages of Mr. Miracle, issues 1 through 18. This is Jack doing his writing, Mike Royer and Vinnie Coletta doing the inking. Do some comparisons and contrasts. We were talking about the inking of Royer and Coletta on Kirby with Scott Dunbier a couple of weeks ago. And I think this is a great selection. You know, man, Mr. Miracle, it was so exciting. The designs, the idea of an escape artist superhero, everything about Scott Free was just fascinating. Big Barda, all the greatness of the New Gods. Really, I think this was the greatest of the New Gods books. I mean, people are Forever People fans, and some of the other, splinters of the New Gods, all the Jimmy Olsen stuff that was happening. But for me, it was always Mr. Miracle. And, of course, really excited about Tom King and Mitch Garrett's new collection that's going on right now. But also reach for the original. 42% off. It's just $17.39. How about reaching back for a great book from Rick Remender and Eric Canetti and Matt Broom, and that was The Wonderful End League. This is one of those great, dystopian things of, as Rick says in his description, it was a mixture of Lord of the Rings and Watchmen. But this is a great story about superheroes at their wits' end, at the end of civilization, trying one last time to save the world. A great book, an epic story. It's, how many pages? It doesn't say how many pages it is, but it's the full series. 42% off, $23.19, an early Remender classic. We had him on earlier this week, Declan Shalvey and Philip Barrett, and their wonderful Irish crime story, Savage Town. This is excellent, 144 pages of just great street-level crime. I really, it blew me away. And as I said in my conversation with Deck, if you like, movies like The General or Veronica Guerin or, The Boxer, great 90s Irish crime films, this is up your alley. Jordy Belair, of course, providing some wonderful colors, and Clayton Cowles doing a great job on the lettering. But this is terrific, man. Hard Crime in Limerick City with Deck Shalvey and Philip Barrett's Savage Town. It's 42% off, $9.85 at InStockTrades.com. Check it out for yourself. Don't forget, if your orders are $50 or more, you'll receive free shipping from InStockTrades.com. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget, I've got another episode also coming out today, and that's Chip Zdarsky. So if you didn't see it in your cache of podcasts, download it. It's a great story. And, of course, earlier this week, we had Deck Shelby and Shelley Bond talking to us. An embarrassment of riches on the Word Balloon podcast in September, and I'm so happy to share it with you. And we're not done. There's still, 9 days left of September. There's still more conversation to come. So be looking next week for some more great podcasts in the Word Balloon style. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2017.